Up to this point, our code has run in a straight line. It starts, executes once, and stops. Today, we are building a program that makes its own decisions and repeats actions indefinitely. This concept is called control flow. It acts as the brain of your software. To see exactly how it works, we're going to build a continuous, menu-driven calculator. To follow along, open your IDE and create a new C or C++ file. When a program can evaluate its own environment and loop back to its origin, the execution becomes dynamic rather than static. We'll start by creating a continuous loop using the syntax while one or while true. This tells the computer to keep executing whatever is inside the brackets forever. Inside this loop, we'll print our menu options. Type 1 to add, 2 to divide, and 3 to exit. Right beneath those options, we'll write a quick prompt to capture the user's input. Warning tone. If you run a loop like this without explicitly telling it how to stop, your console will just endlessly scroll those menu options until you force quit the application. But a carefully controlled loop is exactly what we need. This continuous execution state keeps a user-driven application alive on your screen, so it doesn't just instantly terminate the second it launches. Now that we have the user's input, we need to route it. The switch statement acts as a dispatcher, intercepting the input and directing it down a specific path. We configure these by typing case 1 for addition logic and case 2 for division. At the end of every case block, you must append a break command. If you omit that break, the program experiences fall through. It will execute the addition code, ignore the boundary, and erroneously run the division logic right along with it. Go ahead and compile your code, then enter a 1 in your prompt. You'll see that the addition logic successfully isolates and runs on its own. Isolating execution blocks inside a switch is a more scalable approach for menus than stacking dozens of generic if conditions. Let's focus on the division logic inside case 2. Here, we'll prompt the user for 2 numbers. Before we let the computer calculate the math, we're going to set up an if-else statement. This acts as a defensive net to intercept the second number. We'll set the if condition to check specifically if that denominator is equal to 0. If it hits 0, we'll instruct the program to print a strict error message, explaining that dividing by 0 is mathematically impossible. We'll then use the else block to catch every other valid number and safely perform the division. Try a live test. Intentionally enter a 0 as your second number, and watch your new safety net intercept the error, keeping the application alive instead of crashing. Now drop down into case 3, so we can build our escape hatch. By applying a break command or toggling a Boolean variable right here, we can cleanly sever the main while loop and shut the program down on our own terms. Finally, at the very bottom of your switch, add a default case. This acts as a catch-all for any invalid keys the user types by mistake. Accounting for user errors and providing a clean exit ensures your program remains stable even under unpredictable input. Take a look at your functioning console. You are now controlling exactly how the program behaves based on real-time choices. This combination of while loops, switch routing, and if-else checks is the same architecture powering video games and operating systems. Now that the program can control the direction of data, we need to address how to store it in larger volumes. This diagram shows how data is structured under the hood. Managing high volumes of information requires mapping memory addresses sequentially, which brings us to the next step, arrays and strings. Managing how data moves is the necessary step before you can learn to effectively organize it. Tomorrow, we'll see how this logic applies to large-scale data structures.